Telegram's CEO has now been formally charged by French authorities with a whole array of crimes, from enabling distribution of child abuse material to complicity in drug trafficking. He's been released on bail of €5 million and ordered not to leave France. I wanted to at least attempt to give a balanced and nuanced perspective on whether Telegram is actually permissive of illegal activity as the French claim. Also in your Hacking News Roundup, new Android malware is capable of relaying your debit card's NFC data to hackers, and could TP-Link suffer a similar fate to Huawei and be banned? But first, my attempt to give a balanced and nuanced perspective on the can of worms that is Telegram. Telegram is for sure one of the few platforms where you can get unfiltered opinions on just about anything, whilst on other platforms those opinions would just be outright censored. In my mind, unfiltered opinions are a great thing. Let's see what people have to say and each of us can make up our own mind. I mean, coming from a country where free speech simply doesn't exist, I can honestly appreciate this aspect of Telegram. And so, I think when most people saw the headlines that Telegram is supposedly a hub of illegal activity, they just couldn't relate to it, because they're not criminals. They don't use Telegram for anything illegal. Hell, they probably haven't even seen anything illegal on the platform. And even if they had, illegal activity is a problem on every platform, so why single out Telegram? Well, as someone who researches cybercrime on an almost daily basis, I've never come across a cybercriminal gang who uses Instagram, Facebook, X, or even Discord as the base of communications. It's almost always Telegram, with many of their channels, which openly trade in illegal things, being around for months, if not years, without being taken down. So it does at least appear as if Telegram has a disproportionate problem with moderating illegal activity compared to other platforms. And when you do look at illegal activity on those other platforms, such as Instagram, many illicit operations, like this local herbal remedy salesman, just use their Instagram account as a kind of advertising vehicle and link to their Telegram channel where they actually do their business. But you can't necessarily blame Telegram for how people choose to use the platform. I mean, no one's going after the Tor project's developers for the mountain of dark web CSAM onion sites, and the feds wouldn't even dare to blame AT&T for a murder plotted on a phone call over their network. So I think this really just comes down to whether Telegram is considered a messaging app or a social network. If it's a messaging app that merely provides the means for communication in the same way WhatsApp does, then you can't really blame Telegram for a drug deal on its platform any more than you can blame the Zuck for a drug deal on WhatsApp. But if drug deals are openly taking place in a public Facebook group, for example, then that's more of a legal problem for the Zuck, because Facebook is more aware of it and has the ability to actually do something about it. The complicating factor here is that Telegram blurs the lines between a messaging app and a social network. Whilst Telegram doesn't provide a native way to discover content in the same way social networks do, many of the Telegram channels containing illegal activities are super easy to find with a quick DuckDuckGo search. So which is it? Messaging app or social network? I'm not sure. Regardless, to say Telegram isn't trying to tackle the problem would be really unfair. When it comes to CSAM in particular, their Stop Child Abuse channel posts daily updates on how many CSAM related channels are banned every day, and this month alone they've purged their platform of almost 50,000 of them. But whether or not Telegram is legally or morally liable for what happens on their platform, there is certainly a wider threat here that governments might use Telegram's perceived moderation problems to manufacture consent to erode end-to-end encryption and free speech as a whole. I live in a country where every year or two, our government comes up with another great idea which could threaten encrypted messaging apps. The problem has gotten so bad that last year WhatsApp even threatened to straight up leave the UK. So could this debate be reignited by the government, with them using this Telegram drama as yet another reason to threaten end-to-end encryption? Maybe. This is a really complex situation, and many things could be true at the same time. Telegram is no doubt an important free speech platform, but it could simultaneously be the case that they're not doing enough to moderate illegal activities, whilst at the same time this situation could be being exploited by governments to go after encryption, whilst in parallel this could be a case of selective enforcement against Telegram, because aside from the illegal stuff, perhaps there's speech on Telegram that governments just don't like. This is a messy one, so let me know what you think down in those comments, right after I tell you about today's sponsor, DeleteMe. These guys help you take control of your personal data, which you might not know is being held by data brokers. Data brokers spend their time scraping the web for your data, building a profile on you that might contain your name, address, phone number, and a hell of a lot more. Then they sell that information to, well, you don't know. Quite often it could be some rando who's willing to stump up a couple dollars for a person search. But the thing that really scares me about data brokers is just how often they're used to enable SIM swapping and doxing. But there is a solution. I've personally been using DeleteMe, and it works like this. You provide your data to DeleteMe, after all they need to know what they're looking for, then they'll check hundreds of data brokers for your data, and within just 7 days compile a personalized report on what they found. And whilst I like to think I'm somewhat privacy conscious and careful about who I give my data to, in my latest report, DeleteMe reviewed over 1,000 listings and found 2 data brokers with my data. But the best part is, DeleteMe sends removal requests on my behalf, and so long as I keep my subscription, these guys will continually scour the web for my info. It's such an essential service, and to sweeten the deal, DeleteMe is giving you guys 20% off their eligible plans with my code Satonic. More details are of course in the description. Next up, researchers have discovered a new kind of Android malware capable of relaying your debit card's NFC data through your phone so cybercriminals can empty your bank account at an ATM. This campaign, which was discovered by researchers at ESET, has been found targeting customers of 3 banks in the Czech Republic. It all starts with a phishing SMS, telling people that it's their lucky day, that they're entitled to a tax refund, and that all they need to do is click the link to their bank's website and update to the latest version of the bank's app. The website makes it feel like you're downloading a legit app, but really this is just a web APK. It has nothing to do with the Play Store. Once opened, the app prompts the victim to log in, resulting in their bank credentials being phished and sent straight to the bad actors. At this point, the attackers log into the compromised account and increase the victim's ATM withdrawal limits to the maximum, in preparation for the next stage of the attack. Next, the victim gets a phone call telling them that their account has been hacked and that the only way to stop the bad guys is to change their debit card's PIN number. This, of course, involves downloading yet more malware from the attackers, again in the form of a web APK. This new app, provided via another SMS link, contains Ngate malware. This Ngate malware abuses the legitimate open source tool called NFCgate. It was developed by researchers for capturing and analysing NFC traffic, but one of its features is that it can relay NFC traffic between 2 devices using a server. This is very useful for our bad actors because it means when the victim is prompted to verify their identity by tapping their debit card to the back of their phone, the bad guys can, at the same time, tap their phone to an ATM's contactless reader, which results in the transaction data being relayed to the attackers as if the attackers were using the legitimate card at the ATM. At this point, the only additional layer of authentication stopping the attackers from emptying the victim's account is their debit card's PIN number, but they've already phished that, and so the criminals are able to totally drain the victim's account. Up until now, this kind of NFC relay attack has been totally theoretical, but not anymore. And this was only discovered being used in the wild because, as Czech police say, back in March they received a report of a suspiciously masked man withdrawing from an ATM in Prague. The guy was quickly arrested, after which he was found with more than 160,000 Czech crowns, that's about $7,000, which was linked to 3 victims all scammed on that day alone. However, after the arrest, the rest of the cybercriminal gang seems to have gotten cold feet because their infrastructure went dark and the attacks stopped. That being said, while it was live, the campaign seems to have been rather successful. The researchers say they identified 6 different Ngate apps specifically targeting clients of 3 banks in Czechia between November 2023 and March 2024. Next up, could TP-Link suffer a similar fate to Huawei and have their devices banned? 2 members of US Congress have called for an investigation into TP-Link, claiming that their routers pose some kind of national security risk. The congressmen claim that TP-Link routers come with an unusual degree of vulnerabilities. They're kind of insinuating here that these things are being intentionally backdoored by the CCP, and that they therefore want the US Department of Commerce to investigate the company and perhaps ban them. As for the evidence for all of this, there's recently been a lot of concern surrounding SOHO routers, that is, routers designed for small office and home use, the kinds TP-Link makes, being exploited by state-backed threat actors to do evil things. The congressman points to a case just last year of suspected Chinese hackers exploiting TP-Link routers to hack government entities in Europe. They also point to the threat posed by Volt Typhoon, a Chinese state threat group that made a name for itself when they hacked hundreds of routers across the US in order to create the KV botnet, which was kind of like a private Tor-like network that CCP hackers used to mask their cyber espionage. But this is where the congressman's claims kind of lose some credibility, because in the case of the KV botnet, no TP-Link routers were actually involved, but rather the routers exploited were made by American, Swedish and Taiwanese companies. Interestingly, the congressmen have made it very clear that their claim that TP-Link poses some kind of a special threat is based on open source information, which should mean that this information is publicly available. However, I couldn't find any analysis that TP-Link routers are more vulnerable than their competitors, even in the citations listed by the congressman. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know. I kind of expected there would be some juicy analysis that TP-Link routers are particularly exploitable, but there just doesn't seem to be any. Another strike against this open letter is that TP-Link is arguably not even a Chinese company anymore. The business split in two earlier this year, and the company is now officially based in Singapore, so it's unclear why the congressmen state the company is based in China when it's simply not. I wouldn't be surprised though if the routers are still made in China, or maybe research and development still takes place there, but that's not something the letter goes into at all. China is, as you might imagine, not very happy with this, and whilst they haven't responded to this call for an investigation of TP-Link, last month China's National Computer Virus Emergency Response Center published a report essentially calling total BS on the very existence of the Volt Typhoon hacking group, claiming its existence is just some misinformation campaign conducted by US intelligence agencies in order to preserve US intelligence agencies' warrantless snooping powers and, more relevant to TP-Link, eliminate foreign competitors. But again, just like the claims against TP-Link, this is totally unsubstantiated. It remains to be seen whether this call for an investigation will actually go anywhere. The congressmen have requested a response from the Department of Commerce by the end of the month, so I guess we won't have long to wait. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.